sayings that they use is very much interested in truth. And from my own experience, this is true. But I grew up in a culture where I was told what is the truth. I mean, we were told you don't have to think about the truth because we cannot know it. God had to tell it, and he has told it in his revelation. So should India not be more powerful, use its power to tell the world that this is not okay, actually, to enforce something which is not the truth? Because obviously there are two truths. Christianity says we have only the truth. Islam says, no, this is only the truth. So, and both of them put India down. They don't want that the world knows anything about India. So should India not stand up much stronger and tell them?
Please. Well, see, we must understand this. Whatever we are calling a soft power of culture, spirituality, art, music, if you look at it, there is no nation on the planet which has as complex music systems as we have. Every region has its own. And the complexity is so absolutely immense, how they use sounds and the mathematics involved in the sound making is too phenomenal. I'm saying this because we have a family full of artists and I'm constantly telling them, you're stuck in tradition. The very tradition which crafted these arts and sciences has become a trap. You have to step out of that. Otherwise, for example, Carnatic music is there. I'm telling you, if you pay enough attention to it, there's nothing more complex than that in the world in terms of arts. But it needs a cultivated audience. Somebody else who comes and sits here will get bored in the first 5 minutes, they'll want to leave. But if you do jing, 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 everybody will sit because the body moves with it. So that cultivation has to happen means you have to step out of that container he was talking about. See, containers were created to protect the material that's inside. But if you create a container that you don't have a key to open, then you're not protecting it, you're imprisoning it. So right now, a whole lot of things like this are in India right now. We have things of tremendous value which we locked and kept for safety and we've lost the key. We don't know how to open the lock. It's right there but it doesn't come out. So, about youth seeking truth, it's very natural for them, as you said. People have been told, this is the truth, this is a commandment. The best thing about India is this, even when the so-called divine entities came, they could not give us a commandment because Indians are full of questions. We were trekking in Tibet and we had people from over 40 countries and one Indian person who lives in United States stood up to ask a question and the question went on for over 8 minutes. Question inside a question, inside a question, inside a question, like that. All the other, Indians are okay, but the rest of the people are, what kind of question is this? Then I said, see, this is an Indian issue. We've spent thousands of years asking questions and questions and questions. We can make a question itself an hour long. Then one Chinese lady who was traveling with us, she said, yes, Sadhguru, I worked in United Nations for 23 years. Only Indians ask questions, nobody else asks questions. You just see, Shiva came And he opened his mouth and his wife asked him a million questions. Krishna, after many years of waiting, obviously he couldn't talk to Arjuna for a long time, obviously. He chose an extreme moment of war. There he tries to teach him something, the guy asks him hundreds of questions. So, as I said earlier, this has been a land of seeking. But rest of the world, or not really rest of the world, certain part of the world took to commandments. This is it. If you say this is not it, you're dead, that's all. It's a very effective method. Yes. See, there are two ways of handling a question. Either you answer the question or kill the questioner. If I answer your question, you'll come up with one more question. But if I take care of you, there is no more question. So they adopted this methodology. Anybody who asks a question is dead. So after some time, the whole society feared to ask questions. See, people are very proudly talking about secret schools in Europe and secret schools in Middle East. Why were schools secret? Because you would be dead otherwise. Hello? Why is a school, a place of learning, a secret? Because if you learn something that I don't approve, you're dead. That's why. There are no secret schools in India. All kinds of things were done. In the same generation, all kinds of things were done, most unthinkable things were done, but as long as people are in pursuit, other people said, okay, we don't like that, so they kept away and they pursued something else. But there never was persecution because we created a culture of seeking, not of believing. The moment you believe something, see, we must understand this. The moment we believe something, let's say I believe something and you believe something else, both of us are friends and everything is fine, but when it really comes to the crux, I will kill you. Because I believe this is it and you believe that's it. So there is no way out of that. So, we are still in that mode, but one tremendous thing that's happening in the world is heavens are collapsing, you know. Yesterday I was with a group of nearly 9,000 people in Bangalore who were with me for 2-day program, and I just asked, how many of you believe you're going to heaven? Only about 5 hands went up in 9,000, okay? So, are you hell candidates, I asked them. They said, no. Oh, we don't know. Oh, in the previous generation, if you'd asked this question, 80% of the hands would have gone up. So heavens are collapsing, which is a very good thing for seeking. Because heavens are collapsing means what heaven means is that there is a better place than this. This is a tragedy. This is the worst thing that human beings have been, trained to believe. The worst thing is there is a better place than this. So you can make a mess out of this and go there. You can make a hell out of yourself here and go to another heaven and live well forever, okay? What is there in heaven if you really look at it? Hindu heaven, food is very good. Really. In another heaven, there are those white-gowned ladies floating in the clouds. If you like that kind of ambience, you can go there. In another heaven, you will encounter virgin problems. If that's what you want, you can go there. But to go there, the basic quality is you must die. The qualification is you must be dead. And once you're dead, fortunately, we either burn you or bury you or cut you and feed you to the birds, depending on your culture. One significant thing, ecologically significant thing that everybody will do is put their bodies back into the earth. Very good thing to do, except Elon Musk. So you went to heaven, you don't have a body, you left your body here and went to heaven. Now what do you do with good food and virgins? So I'm saying, right now for the first time in the history of humanity, more number of human beings are beginning to think for themselves, especially women. 100 years ago, most women were not allowed to think. The whole structure of most societies in the world were such, they're just not allowed to think for themselves. For the first time, men and women are beginning to think. Whether thinking right or wrong is not the point, they're beginning to think. Once they begin to think, a logical structure evolves in their mind. Once a logical structure evolves in their mind, anything that's illogical will collapse. So heavens are collapsing. Because of this, you will see an enormous increase in consumption of alcohol and drug abuse. This is because there is no better place to go. Right here you want to do everything. So you will see this rising, but at the same time, this is the time consciousness can also rise, because certain number of people will look inward as to what is the solution. So how much of the human population will we turn inward is the challenge of this generation. This is the challenge for which we live. We must see maximum number of people turn inward rather than turning to chemicals. Today it is said 70% of US population is on prescription medication. Another 30% of course buys it off the back street. 38% of European population is on psychiatric medication. And the use of alcohol and drug is rising like never before. If you look at India as a society, in the last 25 years, it must have gone up by 10,000%. What do you say? There was a time when we were growing up, I've heard elders talking like this, in their house, they consume alcohol, we can't give our girls to them, you know? They won't, marry those people in whose house there is use of alcohol. Today, if you don't serve alcohol, there's no wedding. In just a question of 25–30 years' time. So, it is not a moral issue. The problem is this, I'm not looking at it as a moral issue at all, because after all, everybody is seeking, you must understand this. Whether they're going to the bar or to the temple, the problem is just this, they are seeking for pleasantness and profoundness of life. Somebody thinks it's in the temple, somebody thinks it's in the bottle, but they're seeking the same thing. So the important thing is to make them see everybody seeking the same thing, but which is more sustainable, which will really work for us, is the thing. In the next 30 to 40 years' time, if we don't do the right things in the next 10 to 15 years' time, there is a window of somewhere between 15 to 30 years' time. In this, if we don't make a serious turnaround in the human consciousness, you will see 90% of humanity will be on chemicals. Already to grow food we use chemicals, to purify water we use chemicals, our air is full of chemicals, water is full of chemicals, and everybody is on some kind of medication. From children to old people, everybody is on medication. When everybody is on chemicals, then it's very hard to turn those human beings around. Before a large number of human beings or a huge percentage of human beings become chemically controlled, we must turn human consciousness around. This is the responsibility of this generation. This is our time on the planet. What are we going to make out of it is our business. Please, let's make it happen.
Okay, this was the perfect summing up of what happened in this session. Our time is ended. Thank you very much, Sadhguru, and thank you everybody for being such great participants.